Barry Wishner.
The success is in the doing. Doing something actually requires you to do something. That's profound. But you got to do something. In business today, we have too many intellectualizers. I need more data. I need more data. We need to do another ad hoc. We need to do another survey. When is enough ever going to be enough? I like the philosophy of Richard Branson over at Virgin Airlines. Mission statement: screw it, let's just do it. That's it. Doesn't get any simpler than that.
You know what the fastest an automobile could go in the United States 100 years ago? Maximum speed. 10 miles an hour. 10 miles an hour. That was the maximum speed. You see, everybody's impacted by this speed. I was talking to a chicken company called Purdue. Most of you are familiar with Purdue. Their chickens used to move down the line at the rate of 40 per minute. All of a sudden now they're up to 100 chickens going down the line. Cluck, 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 cluck. Per minute. Per minute. Now they're looking at turning the speed up to 140 chickens per minute. Cluck, 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 cluck. Can you imagine what happens? How many of you remember that Lucille Ball flick? I was thinking about this. You know, it was a chocolate factory and there was a backup with the chocolate. Can you imagine what goes on at Purdue when there's a backup of chickens? Incredible speed. Everything is moving so fast. Does anybody here play a musical instrument? A musical instrument? The radio. That's a great line. I gotta write that one down. Radio. All right, is there anybody here who would like to play an instrument? Is there anybody who has a friend that would like to play a musical instrument? Well, this is interesting. The other morning, my wife was practicing with these classical pieces, you know, like Beethoven, and she's hitting the piano. And those of you who play an instrument, when it hits the right note, it kind of flows along nicely. When it hits the wrong note, what happens? It kind of goes south, right? I said, that's no different than American business. Perfect practice makes perfect. How many of you are practicing the right note with all the changes that are being thrust upon you? One way to remember to take this inventory is when you go back home, is take a paper bag, cut out 2 holes for the eyelets, put it on top of your head, walk in front of a mirror, take off all of your clothing, and ask yourself the following question. Would you go out with this person? Now, I underlined in this conversation we're having this morning, when you go home. Take a reality check. Take the bag test. Ask questions the same way you would ask questions. Why should somebody, when they're buying their respective type of coverage, go to an independent agency or a brokerage if you happen to be up in Canada? Why should they go there? Number one, it's value proposition 101. Number two, why should it be your agency? And number three, if not now, when? Is there anybody in this room that feels like they have a little bit of charisma? Stand up, just right here. Either one. Turn around. What's your first name? Andy. Does anybody know Andy? Okay, all right. All right, Andy, what's your last name? Nagy. Okay, Andy Nagy. Now, we've never met before, have we, Andy? Yes, we did. We did? Where did we meet last night? 2 or 3 years ago when you did this last week. Oh, okay, all right, but we've never met to rehearse this. Okay, all right, let's take it. What a shill. How did he come in here? All right. It's like one time I said to a group, charisma, and all of a sudden a woman stands up, I'm charisma. I go, oh, really? That's my name. That never happened to me before, but let's look at Andy's characteristics. Is he a type A person? Does he have a sense of urgency? Okay, so far so good, right, Andy? Okay. Does he have a sense of humor? Yes. Good. So 2 for 2. Can he be trusted? Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, Andy. I'm talking to Bruce Nordstrom. Everybody's familiar with the Nordstroms around the country. I said, Bruce, what's the secret to your success? Because, you know, you're working with all these retailers out there. He says, the secret to retail is retail. And then he hangs up the phone. I've never heard of a close like this before. So I dialed him back up. I said, Bruce, really, what's the secret? He says, the secret to retail is retail. He says you give the customer what they want, when they want it, the color, size, shape, price, and they buy it. That's it? What, isn't that a wow? How many of you have ever been inside of a Nordstrom's? How many have a Nordstrom card? Yes, all over, right? What's interesting about it, every time you keep going back there, you create this whole mystique. It's called profit. Profit is nothing more than the applause of a happy customer. Anybody ever here have a setback? We were working on an account for many years, and it didn't happen. It's the ability to bounce back. Failure is not a crime. Failing to learn from failure is the crime. The secret to failure is to fail fast, get on with it, and try something new. You cannot run the sausage machine backwards and expect the pigs to come out the other end. Get over it. If you've ever tried Trivial Pursuit, #1 question was, what car is considered to be the greatest failure of all times? Obvious answer was the Edsel. I went back and did some research. Edsel was #2. The #1 car, greatest failure of all times, was the 1955 DeSoto. Because what happened was, when it was failing, instead of letting it go, they kept producing it year after year, and they were going to cram it down the throat of the individuals, even if they didn't want it. #1 salesman of all times in the insurance industry, his name was Ben Feldman. I was very lucky to interview him. And Ben Feldman stood up in front of this big crowd of several thousand people, sold over $1 billion in insurance premiums in his lifetime. He says, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go on public record. I've gotten more no's than anybody in this room. And then he smiled, but I've also gotten more yeses. First thing I would say to each and every one of you, to be revolutionary, #1, you have to avoid Ditwilly. D-I-T-W-L-Y. It's called the Ditwilly syndrome. It means, did it that way last year. Whatever has worked for you in the past will not work for you in the future. Walter Landau and associates out of San Francisco, they developed corporate logo, and years ago he said, never forget this. A product is made in the factory, a brand is made in the mind of the customer. How do they perceive you? How do they perceive what it is that you are selling to them today? Are you still selling products, which we know is passé, or are you selling them solutions? And that's what they want. If you were to interview your customers as to what they want, yes, they want the best product out there, and they want it delivered on time, and they want the advanced technology, and they don't want any hassle. They want the product to work. They don't want a science experiment. But they also want you to provide them with the aspirin so they can avoid those sleepless nights. True. They want a confidant, a consultant, an advisor that can tell them about industry trends, where the marketplace is going, and what they should be doing within their own particular operation. But if I asked you, how do you know what it is that your customers really want? How do you find out what it is your customers really want? Who said that? This guy is, what's your name? Mac. Mac had the answer. Can I share with him, Mac? How do you find out what it is that your customer really wants? Ask him. This is genius. This is really genius, Mac. You know, the trouble is with most corporations, they said, well, we need to survey our customers. And they spent 6 months developing the survey instrument, right? And another 6 months sending out the survey instrument. And then they get back, and sometimes it goes to marketing, and it gets the filters on it. They don't even know who the customer is. So much has changed in a year. You want to find out what the customer really wants? Ask them. People always ask me, okay, so how do we get the leadership in this room? How do I get you to think differently, break with tradition, the status quo, the way you've been doing things for so many years? It's difficult. It's difficult. How many of you believe, and I know it's one of your traits, sincerely believe that innovation is the key to your growth? Show of hands. It's got to be universal. Everybody's got their hand up, right? Innovation is key to your growth. Now, you've all heard of ROI, right? Return on investment. How about ROI, return on innovation, return on imagination? Now, we got an agreement that everybody here believes that that key driver is one of the keys to your success, right? How many of you right now have in place an ROI, return on imagination, or return on innovation in your respective areas of responsibility? Show of hands. 3 hands. You just got done telling me how important. Put your hands up, and I want Jeff to see this. Look around, Jeff. Put your hands up if you got an ROI. We got some work to do. I want you at that $40 million mark.
And the only way you're going to get that is what? ROI. Oh, yeah, but why bother? Why be bothered being innovative? You know why? Because everything's become commoditized. Everything is beginning to look the same, taste the same, and smell the same in today's marketplace. You've got a great reputation. Just mention the GE name gets you in the door with the great reputation. The differentiation was what closes the deal. Dare to be different. If you're not doing something special or different, you're not getting noticed in the marketplace. Simple as that. What are you doing differently? What have you changed last week? If you've not changed anything, I challenge you, you have not earned your salary. It's not a question when you're interviewing somebody how much better they're doing on their job this year than last year. The question you should be asking them, what are you doing differently today than you did a year ago? That's the big question to be asking the people who work for you. Next question you should be asking when daring to be different is, what am I doing necessary? And if it's not improving the bottom line, not improving the client relationship, stop doing it tomorrow.
I was in Texas several years ago, and I ordered a regular city cab, one of those metered cab with a yellow medallion on the top. No limo, nothing special. The cab driver picks me up at 9:30 in the morning. He's got a tuxedo on. This is a city cab. I mean, like, never happened to me before. Has a little cummerbund, little red tie, cap on, opens the door, we're driving along, and he says, coffee, tea, milk, or juice. I go, this is unbelievable. This has never, ever happened to me in a regular taxi cab. And he starts offering me different types of wine and mixed drinks, and this is 9:30 in the morning, and who's going to start that early, right? Usually you wait till about 10:30. But then he starts offering me all these newspapers and magazines to read. I go, why do you do this? He says, I dare to be different. Nobody knows me in Texas. Here's my business card. I said, how many executives do you pick up each month like this? 450. This is a city cab. Now he takes it to the next level. He's a very creative man, Michael. How many of you have been inside of a cab that has testimonial letters from past clients? You're way ahead of me. Now in the back of the cab, he's got all these testimonial letters. Now I'm a speaker. I'm always looking for my next gig, right? Says, CEO here, CEO there, VP here, CIOs. I'm writing down all these names. So I give it to my staff. I said, call up these people and said, we have something in common, and we use Michael the cabbie in Texas. I have actually gotten 2 bookings. He has now become my surrogate agent. I mean, it's incredible. But he's daring to be different. How many days a week you eat cereal? 7. 7 days a week. What kind of cereal do you eat? Raisin Bran, 7 days a week. Heck of a risk taker. 7 days a week, huh? Do you drive to work, Joe? You drive to work. Do you drive down the same street? Yes. The condition that Joe has is the same condition that we all have in this room. The condition is called robo-itis. Nothing will change unless you change your behavior pattern, Joe. Joe, when you go back home, what I'd like you to do is I would like you to have at least 1 or 2 days a week cold pizza. All right, how many people have ever eaten cold pizza for breakfast? Joe, look around. Joe, look. Joe! Joe, can I get a commitment out of you, Joe? Can we get Joe a little applause to give Joe a commitment to eat cereal? And then the pizza? You know, they did a survey 10 years ago, male-female relationship. Who the dominant person is and which side of the bed they sleep on. They found that the dominant person sleeps on the right side of the bed. How many of you knew that? Show of hands. How many people knew that the dominant person sleeps on the right side of the bed? Very smart group. There's some people around here. Yeah, I knew that. I didn't tell you where the baseboard or the headboard is. They said, I don't care where it is. I'm the dominant one in my house. What I'd like you to do when you go back home, whatever side of the bed you sleep on, I want you to sleep on the other side of the bed. Can you imagine what your other half is going to say? By the way, what went on at that Eclipses conference?
Imagine Barry Wishner electrifying your audience. Why just imagine Barry Wishner when you can have him at your next meeting? Contact us today to guarantee Barry Wishner's availability.